let it go live, and then I'll do that, and then we'll start. Okay, come on, scroll bar. Yay. Okay. This is muted. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to DIYabled's panel about living with chronic pain. And we have 5 participants today who I love and think are amazing. And we all live with chronic pain. And one of the things I wanted to say before I introduce everyone is, you know, it's Disability Pride Month, and one of the aspects of disability for some, not all disabilities, but some disabilities, chronic pain is a reality for that. And while we talk about accessibility, you can't build ramps and do closed captioning for chronic pain. So I think it's really great for people to kind of talk about the kind of chronic pain they deal with, how they cope with it, and, you know, anything else. Like, there's all kinds of things we can talk about with that. And so if you don't live with chronic pain, hopefully you'll learn something. All right. So Katrina, I want to introduce everyone. We have Maguerite Madooxx Scarlett. We have me, Priya Ray, and we have Vickey Young, Katrina Smith, and Ashley Jacobson. And oh my God, I just realized we have all women here. Yay, which I think is so amazing. Okay, so yeah, we're going to talk about chronic pain, but I want to turn the mic over to Katrina first because she's co-hosting with me, and one of the things we wanted to talk about is communicating with chronic pain, I think, which is a really important thing. I feel that it is our access when we figure out how to communicate about what our chronic pain is and how we communicate when we're dealing with our chronic pain. So go ahead, Katrina, go for it.
All right, thank you. Once again, my name is Katrina Smith. I'm co-hosting with my friend Priya. Today, we're going to be talking about living with chronic pain, and I have a few questions. I'm just going to go from the top of my head. Right now, I would like to know, how does everybody deal with their chronic pain? Like, when it comes to communicating, how do you communicate while dealing with chronic pain?
Okay, thanks, Katrina. Who would, Ashley, why don't you go first and talk about it?
Sure, yeah. So for me, I first acquired chronic pain very suddenly out of nowhere when I was around 20 years old. I had been an athlete for my life up until that point. I hadn't dealt with any health issues or any disability personally. And then I ran a half marathon. And 2 months later, randomly just was hit with this debilitating pain in my abdomen, my lower back. And I started experiencing muscle spasms, nerve pain, joint pain. And when my pain gets really bad, I get very nauseated too, as well as dealing with hand tremors and feet and leg tremors, which they believe is kind of like my body's almost like a shock response to being in severe pain. And so it took me a really long time to, one, understand what was happening with my body. It took a while to get the right diagnoses, and I was ultimately diagnosed with chronic illness and autoimmune disease. But I really struggled to find doctors and even to find people in my personal life who could understand what I was going through, especially at such a young age, as a young adult. And so the thing that I think helps me cope the most and helped me learn to communicate the best with my chronic pain was finding a really qualified pain specialist. I found a doctor after gosh, maybe like 3 or 4 years, who finally understood when I was saying, oh, it's this sharp stabbing pain here, or it's this like deep kind of tearing pain here. This doctor finally was somebody who listened to me and who said, I understand where this pain is coming from, and I want to improve your quality of life. And so just having that validation was really helpful. But then also, an expert who understood different ways I could treat it, whether it be through medical devices or pain medication, acupuncture, what have you. So that's kind of my general experience with chronic pain. I still live with it every day. That day that it hit me about 11 years ago, there hasn't been a day since that I haven't lived with chronic pain. And I've just kind of learned to really prioritize managing my health and managing my pain in any way that's in my control, and then adapting in for all those ways that it's not in my control.
Okay, yeah, thanks so much, Ashley. So Marguerite, you had to get up. I'm just going to tell you, Katrina was asking how you, Katrina, what you do it?
So how do you communicate while going through chronic pain?
Are you going to type it, Marguerite? Okay, cool. Well, Vickey, while she's typing, why don't you talk about that?
I feel like I'm the worst person to ask how I communicate because I don't. I'm terrible at it. I was diagnosed with arthritis at 7 years old, but I was having symptoms probably at like age 6. And it took a while for them to diagnose, like, oh, she's just growing. And I would be like, I'm in really bad pain. Like, I would be like crying. My mom could see that like I was in pain, even though 7-year-old me was like trying to hide it, but 7-year-old me did not have a good poker face at the time. So you could definitely tell that when I was in pain. And, I'm not a fan of I didn't like taking medication at the time because it was hard for me to swallow pills, and like those chewable Tylenol tablets just tasted terrible at the time. So I was like adverse to everything. I just wanted to be like left alone in my little bubble. And even now, I'll go get my BioFreeze or an ice pack, and then I just don't answer any questions. I just go put it on and I go shut my door, and I just want to be left alone. Somebody just, maybe check on me if I haven't responded to anything in 14 hours or something like that. I'm probably still alive. I'm just in my bed watching Gossip Girl, and that is the only thing that I do. I will just, if I'm in really bad pain to where I physically, can't get out of bed, or it hurts too, or kind of whatever is going on, I'm just going to stay and hide. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to be bothered. I get really withdrawn. And I really hate when people are like, are you in pain right now? And I'm like, yes. The answer is always yes. But please stop asking, because I have this mindset where you just don't think about your pain. If you just pretend it's not there, eventually it'll go away. If you just keep telling yourself that that's not happening, you can focus on other things, not gaslighting yourself, but just reminding yourself that no, it's not there. You can do other things. You can get up and go make some breakfast. You can go on your phone and order yourself a bucket of B-Dubs wings. You still can do all of these things. But I used to be an athlete just like Ashley, and I would straight up lie to my coaches if I was in pain. I would take some pretty hard hits in soccer as well. They'd be like, "Are you hurt?" And I'm like, "No, there's just blood on my leg. I'm fine. Give me some pre-wrap and gauze. I'll tape it and go back into the game." And then we'd get off. The adrenaline would kind of taper off, and I'd be laying on the bus. I'm like, "Oh, something doesn't feel right." Still wouldn't say anything to my coaches, because I really just hate that response when you tell someone you're in pain and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Okay, get away from me now. I'm done with that. I'm done with that facial." And I know it's a natural reaction for people, but it just annoys me so much. So that's kind of why I don't really tell people. I just do what I need to do to make it go away, or pretend it's not there, and then try to just, continue about my day, get as much off my to-do list done as I can, or just sleep, whichever one happens first.
Hey, cool. Thank you, Vicky. I'm very similar to Vicky's. Like Vicky and I don't get along because Vicky will say things. I'm like, I'm just like her. In some ways, obviously, we're not all just like each other, but I'll talk about my pain. I had a spinal cord injury, so my pain comes from nerve damage. So I have spasticity and neuropathy, and yeah. So some days it's better than others, but I always have the pain. But on the days, I don't know, like on the days when it's not that bad, I like I'll go to the gym. So this is how I deal with my pain. I try to exercise. Like I get up in the morning. Robert, my partner, he brings me hot water bottles and this tea concoction that he makes with all these things in it. And I drink it and I use the heat and put it all over my body and try to work. And I use a TENS machine too to kind of loosen up the spasticity. And yeah, I just try all different kinds of things. And I also feel my body, like when you try something that you haven't tried in a while, it reacts better to. I don't know. There's something weird about, like we talk about tolerance, but I think even with pain management, your body gains some sort of tolerance to something you're doing to, I don't know. That's what I feel. I don't know any science behind that, but just experience wise, I've noticed that. So that's what I do. I get up in the morning and I watch bad TV shows. And I always try to find a TV show, whether it's good or not, that has a lot of seasons. So I don't have to think about what do I want to watch. I'm just gonna watch this TV show. So lately I've been watching Scandal and it's really funny. Scandal's so hilarious. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So good.
So yeah, so it's really good. So I just watched Scandal because it has like a million seasons and I don't have to think about it. So while I'm, and I'm not paying attention because, I'm kind of meditating while that's happening, but Scandal is on in the background. So that's really what I do. And then when I get up, I eat breakfast and I try to work out because I think when my body's in pain and I do that like half hour of this intense physical exercise, even when I'm in really bad pain or less pain, I just do it. And I don't know, it does help with the pain, but I think it also helps me mentally to deal with it because the exercise, we all know, the athletes in this group know what exercise can do for you mentally. So yeah, so that's what I do. And then I just drink coffee and it's like what Vicky was saying, I do have the pain, but there's so much stuff I really want to do. So I just think the caffeine really, like a lot of people that deal with this pain, they're like, don't drink any caffeine. And I'm like, okay. I was like, but the caffeine makes me forget about the pain and do what I want to do. So, and it doesn't really make it worse in my opinion. So I just drink the coffee. Other people are like, don't eat this, don't eat that. I'm like, well, I don't know. I think eating makes people happy and coffee makes me forget about my pain and keep doing what I want to do. So I just do that. And that's like kind of what I do. And, yeah, so I just get caffeinated. After I exercise and get that stimulation mentally, then I drink coffee and then I'm like, yes, I'm going to do everything, no matter whether it's a good day or a really bad day. But on really bad days, even with the caffeine, sometimes I'm like, all right, I've done this, and this. And even though I wanted to do all this and this and this is enough for today. I can rest. So the other thing is doctors, like both Vicky and Ashley have mentioned doctors, when my pain started, I had a spinal cord injury. So I was like thinking I would go into the doctor and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is from your nerve damage. But instead they were like, irritable bowel syndrome, this and that. And they gave me all these tests, MRIs, the MRIs are the only thing I can remember, but all these other kinds of tests. And one doctor actually gave me a medication for irritable bowel syndrome. And I said to him, don't you think this is just from my nerve damage? And he was just like, oh no, honey, I think you have really bad irritable bowel syndrome. And so I'm Indian. So Indian culture, it's like when your doctor tells you something, you just have to follow, you just trust doctors. It's like, this is something that's ingrained into my brain since the day I was born. So it was this moment where I had to be like, I am not listening to the doctor. And that was like a really hard thing for me to do, like just coming from the culture I do, and to like be like, no, the doctor is wrong. The doctor does not know what they're talking about. And doctors often don't like me because I'm like, no, this is like my spinal cord is T12L1. I have spasticity in there. You know, once I finally learned what it is, I was like, this is what it is. Do you have medication for it? And now my neurologist doesn't really, he literally just said, try exercising. I don't know what else to do for you. And I appreciate that. I like it when doctors are like, I don't know what else to do, because it's honest. It makes you feel like, okay, I have to deal with this. I've gone through all the medical solutions. Now I just have to figure out how to deal with it. And so, you know, for a doctor to say, I don't know, is actually a good thing. And I don't know. I think the medical profession needs to learn that they're not always going to have solutions to our problems. So after this, I'm going to read what Marguerite said. And then, Katrina, I think you should answer your own question after I read what Marguerite says. Okay, Marguerite says CP and cervical dystonia communication is with the doctors and someone who is listening in the medical field using herbs and stretching and yoga. When in really bad pain, I used to use Motrin 800 milligrams, and now I use the above instead, correct? You do the stuff above instead of the Motrin, right, Marguerite? Yes, okay. Mentally is the key. Too many drugs to maintain side effect. Oh yeah, there's too many drugs with too many side effects from the drugs. And yeah, that's another, I agree. Doctors are always trying to give you medication. And currently I'm taking Lyrica, but I don't even really know if it helps, but I just take it because I'm so afraid if I stop taking it, my pain will get worse. So I'm like, all right, but it's not a large amount, and I just take it. And it's really the only medication I'm taking. And after I had my spinal cord injury, they had me on 5 different medications, and I worked really hard to make sure I didn't have to use any of them. So I totally agree with Marguerite about the medication. I call it the medical hamster wheel or gerbil wheel. Like, they just spin you around, give you medications.
Oh my
say
God,
you
that
have
was not
this.
my experience at all.
So
I think see, for me, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I
no,
just want to
go
know
ahead.
that, like, for me, doctors, especially with all of like the opioid crisis in the media, which is a very serious thing, and addiction and substance use disorders are very serious and should be regulated in ways that are appropriate. But because of that, when I first got sick, every emergency room I went to, every doctor I went to for years wouldn't prescribe anything to manage my pain, and they wouldn't refer me to any doctors to figure out what was going on. So for me, like, the hamster wheel was more of like spending time and energy and money without getting anything to help. And so, I think while I've been able to, with my medical device, which I got in a study, really kind of lower a lot of the medications I was on, for me, it was like really difficult to even get on pain medication to begin with. But my pain specialist is also really great in like monitoring to make sure that my dosage doesn't give me that many side effects. So I'm sure that really helps too.
And
Yeah.
like when you're a kid, they really put you through the whole like, oh, well, we don't want to give you any like pain management supplements because like, oh, you're 10. We don't want to give you opioids. That's going to screw you over. Oh, but Tylenol's not effective. Acetaminophen's not helping. Oh, okay, that's fine. Keep taking it. Oh, but you can't take naproxen or aspirin because you're on these NSAIDs. And at one point, they sent me to pain management therapy, which, if you have never been to pain management therapy, it is the wildest thing you will ever sit through in your life. Like, I don't know if I just had like a really bad therapist or like if it's just the style of therapy. Because, like, when I went through therapy for my anxiety, this was not my experience. So I was like, I'm pretty sure this is just like pain management therapy is weird. But my therapist like literally was like, well, we need to figure out all of the causes of your pain. And I'm like, it's my arthritis. It hurts in my knees. And he's like, well, let's talk about your personal life and see if that's contributing to your pain. And I was like, my personal life, how is that contributing to my arthritic pain? It was just like, yeah, do you have any like, are you dating anyone? Are you having fights with your friends? And I was like, that's not a factor in arthritis pain. Like, what? And he's like, yeah. And then he taught me this weird breathing technique where you just have to like breathe in deep and blow it out really fast when you're in pain. And I looked at him and I was like, I have asthma. I don't know what you want me to do with that one. And he goes, this won't trigger an asthma attack or anything. You just breathe in really deep and blow it out. And I was like, how is this helping me with my pain? Like, someone just give me medication. He was like, well, we can't give you medication because you're still a minor. And the only thing we could really give you is like naproxen, which is bad for your liver with everything else you're on. And I was like, science exists. I think y'all can find me something that is not this weird form of therapy or nothing. And then like when I had my hip surgery, they were like, here's some hydrocodone, you're fine. And I was like, wait, hold on. You just gave me opioids after I've been told for decades that I can't be on opioids. And now you're like, oh, you need them? Here you go. Just like, take them responsibly. And I was like, this is making no sense whatsoever. And like, it's still not any better because now I'm a young adult who consumes alcohol occasionally. And they're like, well, we don't want to give you anything because like, you could drink alcohol and you can't have alcohol while you're on this. And I was like, I can stop drinking. Like I can right? Stop having a glass of wine at dinner every once in a while. And they're like, no, we just won't give this to you. And I was like, what? How does that? Doctors do not make any sense with some of their logic at all when it comes to like prescribing additional like pain medication. I'm back on naproxen after I said that prednisone doesn't work and it just ruins my life. And they're like, well, yeah, we don't have anything else then. You can either just go back to naproxen or prednisone. And I'm like, so do nothing, have the medication not work, or ruin my life for like a week. I was like, wow, these are great options for pain management in a field where like science exists and definitely has like solutions available for me that aren't just those two things.
I see, Marguerite. I'm going to reply to what Vicky and Ashley said. So what I said, gerbil wheel, I mean, not medication wise, because I also had the same problem. But then when the doctors, I tried baclofen and all this stuff that's good for like nerve pain, and it wasn't working. So then they just prescribed me Vicodin, like constantly. Like I had like 3 bottles just sitting in the house because it didn't help me. And I tried it just, I tried it just to see if it would help, but it didn't really help the pain. It just made me kind of maybe not care whether I was in pain or something like that. And that's not what I wanted to be. So Katrina, you go because you didn't get a turn yet. And then I will read what Marguerite said after you go.
All right. So I have hypothyroidism, and that is an underactive thyroid. And at times I do deal with pain issues, and they can become very, chronic at times and I'm one of those like Vicky who won't if something's bothering me, I won't say anything. I'll just rather suck it up and deal with it type thing. Or what I've been basically doing is I'll go get myself some hot tea or whatever, because I believe that besides taking medicine, like from the doctor's perspective, that herbal medicine also works as well, and that's how I deal with my pain sometimes. And or I'll get the hot water bottle. It depends. Or yeah, so that's how I basically really don't. I do and I kind of don't talk about my issues when I have pain issues, but I'm getting there to starting to talk about it now. So yeah, that's how I go about it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Katrina. I'm going to read what Marguerite said. Marguerite said, I tell my doctors about my body. Some of them will say, you know more than us. And that's happened to, or my doctors are like, you don't know more than us. Why are you acting like you know more than me? I'm like, because I live with it. And then the other thing Margaret says, environment can trigger some pain. And that is true. But yeah, I don't know. I just think, I feel like medical professionals need to listen to the patients more because they live with, they're observing what's happening to them every day. And that's information that the medical people don't really have. So I think there needs to be some kind of balance of what they know knowledgeably and then listening to our input and trying to figure some stuff out. But I guess I want to bring up a subject because I think about this a lot because I always read about people talking about self-care. And I always feel like the way I live my life, people would like, you're not practicing self-care. And I'm like, but I don't know, because I do see a lot of people be like, I can't do this today. I'm practicing self-care. And I'm like, oh my God, I would never be able to. I don't know. It's just like something I feel like, I mean, I understand pain and it's hard to get over, but I feel self-care is more like trying to figure out how you can do what you want to do with what you have, like scheduling and doing things from bed or whatever the thing is. Like, so I feel like that's more self-care for me than like being like, I'm not going to do anything and lie here in pain. Because for me, that makes me just think about it more. So that's why I choose not to do it that way. But yeah, anyone that would like to speak first, go ahead. Or did I speak all? Did I talk?
I mean, I'd be happy to add something here.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you. I think when you have a disability, self-care isn't as much like a privilege as it's like a requirement. Sometimes I'll see on social media people who don't have any kind of like chronic pain or disability, and their self-care is still really important, for their well-being, but it's not quite the same. Like for me, I really have to prioritize my energy. And when it comes to my work, now I work for myself, which really helps. But even then, I have to have a period of downtime every night where, I'm taking a shower to relax my body after a long day, or I'm taking a bath with Epsom salt and I'm taking my meds at the same time, every morning and every night. And I'm eating things. Now, granted, I'm sometimes I have a bit of a sweet tooth, so I need to work on that a little bit. But I generally I have to be on a low acid diet because of the ulcers I get. And so I'm always kind of aware of all of these kind of moving pieces. And so self-care often looks like making sure that I'm taking care of all of my health needs before everything else so that I'm able to do everything else. So like, even if there's a day where I don't have like a full schedule, I will get as much done as I can with limits, so that if I have a pain flare up the next day, I've covered my bases and I've done what I need to do. And I know in law school that was really important for me. And now working, it's really important for me to do that. So self-care kind of is this like forever thing. I think when you have chronic pain, that's not going to go away. Whereas it's less like the self-care that I see like influencers post about on Instagram.
My computer told me you are muted. So yeah, I kind of agree with Ashley. It's like for me, like when I'm having a good day, I am like a mad person trying to get everything because I feel good and I'm like I can do this, I can do that. So I'm like trying to get everything done because I'm like thinking if I don't feel good tomorrow, I should get this done today because tomorrow I can not have to bust my ass as hard.
Right.
So yeah, so I agree with that. I'm going to read what Marguerite said because I think this is a good transition into something Katrina, because she wrote a cookbook. Marguerite said eating healthier too is a good, when you have chronic pain. And so I always try to find different foods like sweet potatoes, I've been told has like a thing that's good for spasticity. I actually take calms, which actually helps lots of different things and stuff like that. So, Katrina, do you want to talk about your book? I'm going to read Ashley's. Oh, Katrina, what's the title of your book? And she'd love to buy a copy. So, go ahead,
Okay.
Katrina. Tell us about your book.
All right. Yay. Okay, so I have 2 cookbooks out already, and I'm currently working on my 3rd one, which is cooking with chronic pain. One of them, they're based off of, one is basically a book that I call Flip the Box, basically thinking outside the box when it comes to cooking. And like if you get tired of eating one way, how you can turn that recipe into something different. That one's called Flip the Box. And then there's another one, basically it's called Brutality Living. And it has tips in there, and it also has recipes. And I can grab the link real quickly and post it in the chat real
Awesome.
quickly.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book you're working on now? Like cooking, is it more about how to cook when you have chronic pain, or is it about things, that you're thinking
Yeah.
about eating that helps your chronic pain?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I've been asked that question before. What is my cookbook about? It's gonna have some stories in there from some of my friends who shared their stories and some foods that they have eaten before, and then they knew, oh, they couldn't have it when they're going through their episodes. And so I am not a chef, nor am I a cook. Well, not like licensed chef or what am I trying to say?
We got it. We understand.
Yeah, I'm not a
You're not a trained chef.
yeah, I'm not a trained chef, nor am I a doctor. That's the word. But some things that I'm doing research on, so that okay, I know things that can help or could help, and I tell people in the book that before trying them to consult with your doctor, because you don't want to get fined for telling someone to try something and they wind up hurting themselves. So I'm going to find those cookbooks, and then when I'm completely done with the 3rd cookbook, which is cooking with chronic pain, then I'll share it with everyone, and you guys can, grab it up if you like. So I'm gonna go to it right now.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Katrina.
You're welcome.
So the other thing I guess we want to talk about is, I don't know, like, what are some methods this, I don't know. Let me try to think. I mean, does anyone have any subjects they'd like to talk about? I can't think of everything. I can't think of everything. Maybe I will after someone talks. I'll be like, oh.
I'll say, my question for everyone, what's one unsolicited advice that you get about chronic pain that you want people to stop giving you? Because I know we all get unsolicited health advice, but what's the one that pisses you off the most?
Okay, Marguerite, are you writing about that? Yes, Marguerite. I see Marguerite's ready to type. Okay, so Ashley, why don't you go first?
I would say probably two things. The one that pisses me off the most is when people say that I shouldn't be on this or that medication. It's usually coming from people who are not doctors. Actually, it's always coming from people who are not doctors. Yeah. And it's difficult for people, especially, I have tremors that people can see. Sometimes I use a cane. In certain environments, I've had to use a wheelchair. But for a lot of people, if they see me and I'm not using the cane that day, or they're not paying attention to my hands, they might not see my symptoms. And so they have a hard time understanding that even when I look like I'm okay to them, I'm in a lot of pain. And I'm doing constantly all of these things to cope with my pain, which is not just the pain medication, but sometimes does include pain medication. And so, like, for example, in law school, I had a professor who kind of went on this like diatribe about how, pain medicine is always bad for everybody in any dosage, in any situation. And was kind of like preaching about this to my law school class without knowing that every day when I went to law school, I was on pain medication. And every exam that I got an A on, I was on pain meds. And when I passed the bar, I was on pain meds. And so, I think people have this idea that everybody who is managing their pain is kind of misusing or, abusing their medication. Mm-hmm. And the CDC came out with a statistic that actually over 85% of people who have legitimate pain from illness or other forms of disability never misuse or abuse their pain medicine. So while like that's an issue with substance use disorders, I find that I just get really annoyed when people kind of project that stigma onto everybody with chronic pain. But second, I've been getting a lot of people saying I should drink celery juice. And I've tried it. I hate it. I'm not doing it. So those are my two things.
Well, for me, a lot of people tell me all kind. I think I've like gotten to the point where I just don't even pay attention. It did piss me off at first, but now I'm like, I'm not even listening to what you're saying because I know what you're saying does not make sense to me. But like a lot of people are like, turmeric, you should try turmeric, or you should try this. And I've tried all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't really help my pain. And I do, I'm Indian, turmeric's in the food anyway. So it's like, it's kind of things I eat anyway. So, but yeah, people are just always trying to be like, take this, do this. And, yeah, I don't know. The unsolicited advice is just annoying. I can't even remember specific examples because I think I've just blocked it out of my mind, so I don't even have to think about it, to be honest. Like, I'm like, whatever, that person was stupid. I don't even know what they're saying. Like, I did have one friend, because, I'm in a wheelchair when this pain started. She's like one of my oldest friends, and, she just doesn't understand. She goes, I think it's because you can't stand. I think you should... And she was like telling me all this stuff, like what she does, because she's not disabled. And, she's always trying to her father had diabetes. So she's like always very aware of her health and doing things. And she would do these yoga stretches. She goes, I think if there's a way you could do these yoga stretches, you wouldn't have pain anymore. And I'm like, no. But now she got bursitis in her shoulder. So I think now she understands like the stuff she was saying was just like, what was I doing type of thing. So I just think people that don't suffer from chronic pain, they just don't, they can't imagine having to live with pain. So they think it's so easy to solve it. Like, they think like, well, I had a sprained ankle once and I just wrapped it up and took some, Tylenol or whatever, and it was better. So that's what will happen for you. And it's like, no, sorry, you have to understand. So yeah, I don't know. I can't think of specifically any specific irritations, but I might think of something as this meeting goes on. So Katrina, you go first, and then I'm going to read what not Polly, sorry, Marguerite has to say. Pauline's the woman from Crip Chat, and I'm always used to saying her name for some reason when I'm in Zoom meetings. I've been with Pauline a lot, so I said her name. But it's really Marguerite's comments I'm going to read, but after Katrina talks. Go ahead, Katrina.
Okay, so I think we kind of basically slightly covered when I asked about communicating with chronic pain. If we didn't touch bases on this, I would like to know, how do you guys go about coping when you have chronic pain?
Okay, that's a good question, but I'm going to first read what Marguerite wrote. Maybe I should have read that before. And by the way, in the chat, Katrina has put links to both her books, Frugality Living and Flip the Box. And now I'm going to read what Marguerite said. I am not listening to anyone who does not know about my condition and sick of people who are on illegal drugs to get high. Yes. There is a group of people like that. And unfortunately, they have made us suffer a little more. Because, yeah, like doctors, like I remember, I think my aunt, because I have everyone in my doctor's a family. So my aunt, I think, gave me some Xanax once when I was getting the pain. And it wasn't prescription. It was, she just gave it to me as a favor. But then I would tell, and my doctor gave me a prescription to Klonopin, just as in the similar family of drugs. And I was like, yeah, I find this Xanax helps me better. And I guess Xanax was like the drug that everybody was abusing at the time or something. And so like, they're like, oh, we're sorry. We can't give you Xanax because you might get addicted. So we'll just keep giving you this Klonopin, which I was just laughing because I don't know. I'm a Stevie Nicks fan, and Stevie Nicks got addicted to Klonopin. So I would tell everyone, I don't know why they're saying that. Stevie Nicks was addicted to Klonopin. She was just taking it, and I don't know if there's a reason she had to take it, for pain, or if she was just getting high. I'm not really sure. So, but yeah, I was just like, so you're going to give me this one drug that is also addictive, but not give me this other drug that is also addictive, but I take it, and yeah, like I never overtake the medication. I always take it because, first of all, because of the law, I don't want them to be like, you're over abusing, we can't give it to you anymore. And second of all, I don't really want to take a drug that's going to kind of make me slow or whatever. And I just want to manage my pain. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Katrina. I go on tangents. So I'm a non-linear speaker is basically what I am. But
to answer my own question about unsolicited advice, I have two that make me livid. The first is the essential oil / CBD community.
Oh yeah.
Like essential oils in general, like CBD aside, because I'll address that one in a sec. Essential oils, they're really not that helpful, and there's no regulation either to where like you don't entirely know what you're taking, because like the FDA has yet to set, industry standards. There have been so many like issues with other chemicals being in it. My sister was huge into the essential oils. They told her like, yeah, put some of whatever one it was on your like eczema. And it ended up, because like it wasn't 100% essential oil, it got worse. And like it just went really bad. And there's just been so many other similar stories of that just because the industry is so new that it's not very regulated of what can and cannot be in those like formulas that there's so much risk available. And also like you can buy essential oils off Shein's website. You like we're really letting some companies who, you know, aren't going to care about their safety, they're going to try and, you know, sell it for the least amount of money they can, so it's not necessarily going to be like good, but like that's still a huge thing within both this, within the entire essential oils community in general. And then with CBD, so there's 3 types of CBD. 2 of them will make you test positive for on a drug screening because they contain THC, and CBD isolate will not. And like there's also no regulation in that, but I definitely do. I've been following some of the research with it just to see like what's going on, and it's helpful for like some certain types of seizures. But like it's the fact that CBD is pushed as a cure, and it's instead of going to see your doctor about your anxiety, just take some CBD oil. And it's like, no, it's a pain management. If your anxiety is out of control, you should go see a doctor. You should stop using that in place of a doctor. And I think that's like my biggest issue with like CBD specifically, is it's currently this is a substitute for adequate medical care. Like you don't need to know what's going on in your body. Just put some CBD on that and you are good to go. With my arthritis, like we think I have something like mechanically wrong with my knee, like potentially like some muscular or ligament tears going on. And the amount of people have been like, oh, just get like one of those CBD rugs. And I'm like, that doesn't heal a tear at all. Like, sure, it might help with some pain, but I still need to go get the surgery if I want to do that. Like, I still need to take care of the underlying cause. Otherwise, I'm going to be spending so much on CBD to like not fix anything. And that's it, just like that irks me so much, of just manage the symptoms, but like don't take care of the cause. And my other one is eat healthier. And like, so with my dietary restrictions and my allergies, my diet is literally completely gluten-free, mostly fruits and vegetables, and high protein. And anytime someone's like, oh, you just need to eat healthier, and I'm like, please look at my diet. Just go through my house. Tell me what is unhealthy in my diet. And if you can identify what thing is unhealthy that's contributing to my pain, I will let you talk about my diet and, you know, we'll have that discussion. But like, I'm doing all of the right things already when it comes to dieting, and I'm still having chronic pain because just having a clean diet is not going to make all of your symptoms go away. Like for digestive issues, that's going to help you a lot, especially like avoiding, you know, your own food triggers for things like IBS and Crohn's disease. But like, you can't just like eat a healthy diet. You can't eat a salad to make your chronic pain go away. I like love salads, love me some fruit salad, but like it's not going to make arthritis go away. Definitely not making your seizures go away. So those are my big 2 unsolicited medical advices that just irk me so much.
Yeah, okay, now you've reminded me now, Vickey, because I met this woman who actually had a spinal cord injury, but she can actually walk. She's an acupuncturist. She can stand and stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what her pain is comparison to mine. Because, you know, when you have spinal, you know, all the CPs and all these things, there's like a spectrum. I always like to say spectrum of disability, but there's also a spectrum of pain. Like some people have it worse, some people have it. And she's really into essential oils, and she's always sending me spam about some essential oil sale she has. And I get really annoyed with her because I'm like, ugh, I don't want these essential oils. Leave me alone. But then I feel bad. You know, that's just like how she's trying to make money. But I'm just like, why are you sending me that? And then she did actually send me something like a primrose like thing, some primrose thing for free just to try it. And it was weird because I took it and like the way my nerve damage works, like, so my nerve damage was T12L1. And so it affects a lot, like the nerve damage is a lot around my digestive area. And I saw Marguerite talked about her period, which I think we should all talk about because we're all women here. So let's like talk about that. But like, so like my digestive, when I get my period, all that kind of stuff, my nerves are really going crazy. So when I took this primrose stuff, it like was really activating my digestive system and it made my pain worse. And I was just like, she's like, oh, this will make it better. And I'm like, no, it didn't make it better. So, and then like when my doctor ran out of solutions, he's like, why don't you try CBD? Which I was actually in shock because doctors like suggesting like a marijuana based thing. And, but he was all, you know, it was like right when CBD was like coming out and everybody was like, oh my God, it's the cure all for everything. He's like, have you tried CBD? And I was like, doctor, I won't say his name, doctor, whatever. That's expensive. It costs a lot of money. I can't afford to buy
So expensive.
I know. He's like, I was like, they have like these honey sticks that are like $5, and I don't think it's enough to like really help me. Like, I think I need a lot. If it does help me, it would need to be a larger quantity than whatever the heck they're selling at the local coffee place where they're like, we'll put some CBD honey in your tea, and it's like, and you know, sometimes I go out, I was like, all right, I'll drink it. Maybe it'll help a little, but I don't, you know, I don't know. Yeah. So the CBD thing is a little annoying, and yeah. So I am actually going to go, Katrina, do you have anything to comment upon this?
What was the question again? I was lost. I was talking.
I know, we were just all babbling. We were just talking about different medications like CBD and essential oils that people suggest to you to take to deal with your chronic pain.
Oh, I don't really take essential oils. I do know that some do work for some people, and I don't really take any except for magnesium oil. Other than that, if I do use essential oils, it's basically like in Epsom salt when it comes to taking a bath. But yeah, I really don't use.
Katrina froze. Okay, there she is.
But I don't really use essential oils for my chronic pain. I was busy chatting on the YouTube chat.
Mm-hmm.
There are people talking on there. So
okay, cool. Yeah, and then what was the other? I was going to say something, but I forgot. Yeah, and then what Vickey was talking about, a lot of the, like, when something's like a cure-all for everything, then a lot of companies start producing it just to make sales. And so even like the CBD creams and stuff like that, you see, I don't know, I bought this one CBD cream because I was like, let me try it, see if it'll help with the neuropathy or spasticity. But I felt like it was like mostly like, it had eucalyptus, or like I felt like what was it was like kind of like a biofreeze type of sensation where it was like something that was like, you know, like that type of sensation where it was helping the neuropathy. But I don't know if it was the actual CBD. So, and so both these industries, the CBD industry and the essential oil industry, you have also people that are trying to make money. And so it's not pure. They put a lot of other things in it. So it's actually not helpful and can be dangerous, like it was to your friend, Vickey.
Yeah. And quickly to that point though, Priya, with the CBD oil, I'm especially really scared to try that because even though I know that there are kinds without THC in it, because pain management is so highly regulated now, the health system where I'm at, where, you know, my treatment team is, they have rules about like, if you're a patient there, you can't use like marijuana, and you can't have, like, you have to take drug tests either randomly or once a year or whenever, I think every 6 months or something like that. And so I spent years finding these doctors. And so I just can't imagine even risking to try CBD, which I don't know, it might help me a lot, but it might not. And so to risk losing my medical team if I were to try CBD oil and then fail a drug test and then not be able to get the medications that I know already actually help, like that idea is so scary to me that like I always tell people to just be very, very cautious of trying these things, because you, even when they're marked with ingredients, there could be things left out of that list, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I have a company for you, Ashley. It's called Mendy, I believe. It's created by Megan and Rachel Rapinoe. And they have a whole line of athletic sponsorships in there that are no THC products. And that's what Megan Rapinoe uses to compete in the Olympics with their no THC line.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I found that that's the brand that I've been really looking into, because I'm like, you know, if athletes are passing drug screenings with your no THC line, I feel like I'm going to be good to not fail a drug test with your no THC line. Because like, I know there's been some reports of like that there could be drug interactions also with CBD oils, just because we haven't done the research. We haven't done like a whole lot of research, especially with like drug interactions, but like it has some benefits that are like centered in research. There's, you know, so much anecdotal evidence of that this stuff works, but there's just not enough like research out there for me to be able to fully be like, yeah, we should totally be pushing this on the disabled and chronically ill community of like, go take these products. We don't really know if they're going to harm or help you. Medical marijuana is one of the ones that I'm like, oh, can we please stop pushing this on people when we don't know so much about it? And also, if you've seen recent studies of it, like it mimics alcohol in a way. I don't know if you guys keep up on marijuana research, but I'm bored and I like reading free research articles on JSTOR. So.
I just know all of the lawsuits for disability discrimination in employment and in housing based on, I have a case right now that I'm working on that involves housing discrimination because the tenant has a disability and uses medicinal marijuana legally, but the landlord is creating issues. So it's just, for me, like, because we have so much at stake, I just am very cautious in general.
Yeah, there was a study that came out last month that was talking about how alcohol can, or not alcohol, how marijuana usage, whether it's medical or recreational, can increase thoughts of suicide, increase symptoms of depression and anxiety, much like alcohol use can. And I was like, maybe we should stop pushing that until we find out how far, you know, how deep that goes. Because I know we've done the research on alcohol, so we know where that line is between like alcohol abuse, alcohol just like misuse, but not like addiction, and how it affects your overall mental health. But we have yet to do that with marijuana. Spoiler alert, because of, you know, let's be honest, discriminatory policies and stigma surrounding marijuana. We just like have not done the research on it or on CBD products past like, oh, this is the law. You can't use them. Like you can't have hemp products that contain more than 0.3% THC. And like, you have to have the full broad or isolate options available as well. But like, we just have not done a ton of research to like solidify how helpful it is and its safety. And also like for people like Ashley and myself and Marguerite, who, if you didn't know, was in the Special Olympics, we just casually have a Special Olympian over here. Oh, she's telling me timeout. She was a professional athlete, by the way. She was a Paralympian?
Yes.
Yes, Paralympian. My bad. Yeah. But she's a professional athlete, by the way. So like the three of us are those people that we would have had, we do have to be conscious of our, if we were to use CBD products, we do have to be conscientious of that THC content. And that's something that even with like an isolate product that's supposed to be THC free, we don't always know if that's true, because they could just be lying on the packaging to sell it. And like, we don't know at this point.
Yeah, so I'm just going to put a last comment to that. the CBD and the medical marijuana, it's just kind of a Wild West type. I mean, I lived in California and I did actually have medical marijuana, but it wasn't really hard for me to get. I just paid the doctor $50. They're like, here's your prescription. They weren't really like, all right, let me see what. So it's like, yeah, we need to get to a place with things, even with essential oils, like the medical industry needs to start accepting these methods as pain management and do research and prescribe the correct doses so a person is actually getting help rather than blindly taking something. And then yeah, if you have jobs or you're a Paralympian, yeah, there's, and I think like if the medical industry and the science industry kind of got that under thing, then it wouldn't be a risk for people to take it, because then it would be proven that, it would be a prescription. The doctor's giving it to you and that's legal, blah, blah, blah. So stuff like that. So Marguerite wrote a couple of things, but I'm going to read what she wrote. She wrote, period pain was doctors for years, and they say it was mental in my high school years. Missed school because I could not move and I was throwing up. Not a pretty sight. And then Ashley said, I had similar experiences, Marguerite. It is awful. And Marguerite says, some pain can be relieved by essential oil. Depends on how severe the pain is. Oh, and then Katrina said, I'll be right back, but she's back. So yeah, like for me, like when I get my period, my pain goes off the charts. And I always tell my doctors that, but they're just like, whatever. Like, whatever. I'm like, what do you mean? So yeah, and I actually started doing research about medicine and things. And it's actually, the medical industry has not studied women in medicine. And it's really doing us a disservice, because when we're having pain and it's like something we need to accept. We have hormonal shifts and all these kinds of things, and then inflammation when we get our periods and stuff like that. And it does affect our bodies. And when you have nerve or your body's like not reacting the way it normally does to things that are happening in it, that is something I think the medical industry. I read this article once that said something like even like Bayer aspirin has only been tested on white men. And so even aspirin, like something we use commonly, we don't really know how it works on women or people, different races and things like that. And so, yeah, we're being really disserviced as, by race and by gender by the medical industry when they're not figuring these things out. So I really hate it when I tell a doctor, my nerve's getting worse during my period. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know. Or, they say some weird things. And I'm just like,
I think like to that point, when I was in grad school, I was going to grad school, and then that at Michigan State, and I was going there for disability counseling, where I was going to be like a therapist for other people with disabilities too. And so, but while I was there, the medical school was doing a study where they were having med students basically connect with people with disabilities and chronic pain and chronic illnesses to kind of gain more empathy for their daily experience. So they would have like periodic check-ins with us. And the number one thing that I heard from all of them was that they don't really talk that much about, periods, menstruation, the female really conditions that primarily affect, like people who are assigned female at birth. And so for me, one of my chronic illnesses is endometriosis. And that's really involving a lot of the reproductive system. And I just like a few weeks ago had a hysterectomy for that and for the adenomyosis, which is scar tissue that often in some people with endometriosis comes along with that. But for me, like I felt like many doctors didn't understand that there's pain that's normal for when you're like a woman and you're going through your period, and then there's pain that's not normal and that should be treated, and that we deserve to have a decent quality of life regardless. And there have been a lot of studies, and through my own grad school experience, we learned about all these studies that showed the medical bias against women and how doctors will kind of assume that women are just kind of like exaggerating when they talk about pain, especially if it involves their periods. And it's even worse for women of color that are just not believed as often as they should be. And so it leads to a lot of really kind of alarming statistics about not only pain that's not being treated, but other side effects that women experience because they're not believed. So I would love to see that change. And I think there should be more medical schools that have programs like that, where they're talking to women that have chronic pain and kind of understanding how it's affected by different times of the month or different activities and things like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I actually read this book called The History of Disability in North America, and they kind of go back to the 1800s when it was more tribal. And they actually said they considered women that were pregnant, that had their, were getting really bad cramps during the, not even just not disabled women that were dealing with just, but women that were just dealing with and they considered them disabled, and the tribe or the community like recognized that and, didn't shame them or anything, just were like, okay, this is what she's dealing with. So let her get through it, and then she can go fetch water again or something. I don't know what the duty of that person was, but so Marguerite wrote, just like Botox, real work wonders, but now they have some at cheaper cost. I made the mistake due to the fact that the cheaper one only works for a short time. My speaking voice is worse. My gait is thrown off. Yeah, so like that's even like, and Botox is like it's a pharmaceutical medical way to deal with the spasticity and stuff like that. And yeah, and then you have like companies that offer a cheaper version of it, and it's really not helping you the way the more expensive one is. So yeah, I totally get that, Marguerite. So I don't know. I don't know what else to talk about, which is, I don't know. Everyone knows how much I love to talk. So I'm just like, I don't know. What else should we say? I don't know. I just feel like, okay, so like, I guess like one of the things I'd like to talk about is this concept of toxic positivity. So when you do tell someone I'm having pain and they don't realize that, they're like, oh, I hope you feel better. And it is annoying, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, like I do get annoyed, but then I'm kind of like thinking as I'm texting them, like, and I love the world of texting and emailing, because you're like really like, I hate you what you're saying, but then you're like not politely saying, like, it's like, and my pain really sucks, but you don't write the really sucks. It's like, my pain is a little challenging right now. So I kind of like how I can vent through texting and email. But at the same time, the reason I don't really come out against people like that, because I think, I don't know, it's just like, how do you understand? Like, I grew up with, my mom had arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, all growing up, and she was in pain. And, she would tell us she was in pain, but she didn't like go on and on about it. But, I was a child, a teenager. I was pretty horrible. Like I did my teenage things, and I was like, whatever, mom. But, now I think back, I'm like, oh man, that was so mean for me. She was probably in so much pain, and I was like really bought, like making her life hell. And so I just kind of realized, because I was in as her child, I was kind of in that mode of toxic positivity where I really wasn't understanding what she was dealing on with a day-to-day basis. So I really try to figure out how to, because I don't like to use the word toxic positivity because I think it's too negative. So I like to explain to people why they need to kind of, I don't know. I don't even know what they need to say. I mean, maybe they don't say, oh, I hope you feel better soon, because we all know we're not going to feel better soon. So maybe be like, oh, hope you have a better day tomorrow. And then I've explained that to my friends, and that's what they say to me now. And I don't know, that makes me happier, instead of when they're like, I hope you feel better soon. I'm like, I won't. No, I won't. You'll be bad again tomorrow. So, but yeah, I like it when my friends say, I hope tomorrow's a better day. And then I'm like, okay, I accept that.
I
So
like that.
it's like this big struggle, like of being mad at people for being like that, but I don't think they're meaning it to be mean to you or make you feel bad. And I'm always trying to figure out how to explain that to people, like when when you're friends with someone, they're having chronic pain, like how to maybe respond to that in a better way that isn't so upsetting to them. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that, please share.
I feel like there's a huge difference between the definition of toxic positivity and people telling people with chronic pain, like, I hope you feel better tomorrow. Because, like, toxic positivity is this notion that you have to remain positive at all times. It's not saying insensitive things so much as, like, oh, just stay positive. Like, your illness isn't that bad. Just be glad you don't have it worse. Like, you know, and this is something I could totally see somebody saying, Vickey, your lupus isn't as bad as Ashley's, so why are you complaining about your minor symptoms when those are her symptoms she's dealing with? Like, to me, that's what toxic positivity is towards disability. But then, like, just saying things of like, oh, I hope you feel better tomorrow. Like, it's people who don't understand chronic illness that they don't know what else to say other than like, oh, I hope you feel better tomorrow. And I'm in like two different chronically ill group chats with a bunch of people having all different chronic illnesses, and we've started saying like, I hope your pain is better tomorrow, or you're experiencing less pain tomorrow, or it's, something like that, instead of being like, oh, I hope you just have like a completely pain-free perfect day, I hope you get better tomorrow, because we all know like that's not the condition, like that's not going to happen at all. So just kind of like changing that, and changing like how we go about and also like obviously like educating, like Priya was talking about, educating like why it's not okay to say, I don't want to say like why it's not okay, but like why you probably shouldn't say like, oh, I hope you feel better tomorrow, someone with chronic illness.
Yeah, I think for me too, like the toxic positivity was really damaging when I first got sick, because people who were well-intentioned, who couldn't relate to what I was going through, would say, people who love me and care about me, who I love, would say things like, you have to be positive, or studies show that people who are positive heal quicker. And, and I would always say, I can be positive and accept the reality of my disability. Like accepting my disability is being positive. It's just accepting what I go through in my day-to-day life. And when people say things like, you can sometimes tell when people have good intentions or not, and they're just kind of trying to figure out what the right thing to say is. But it can come across really dismissive when you say like, I hope you feel better. Or, where I prefer, if you say something like, I like what Priya said, but also saying something along the lines of, I hope you find some relief, or I hope you get some relief tonight, or I hope you're able to get a good night's sleep. Like I think we can be more understanding of when people are like trying to show support versus when they're saying things like, oh, you have to be positive, or you shouldn't share all the negatives. Like I got that a lot too, especially when I started advocating online. I would have a lot of people saying like, oh, should you really be sharing about how, your autoimmune disease affects your bladder? And I'm like, yeah, why should I be ashamed of my disability? It's part of my life. Like you go to the bathroom every day. I just have to deal with it differently. Like who cares? But people want you to kind of sometimes shield, especially your chronic pain experience, from the non-disabled world, because it's scary for them to think that it could happen to them too. And, you know, statistically, if you're given the opportunity to age, you will deal with some form of disability. And I think a lot of people just want to pretend that that doesn't exist, that that reality isn't there. So toxic positivity really comes into play, where it's like, if you're going through something difficult, people expect you to keep it to yourself. And I've always been very grateful that I didn't do that, because the only reason that I found the right doctors, got on the right treatments, was because I shared my experience and found other people in the disability community who led me in the right direction. And had I just kind of kept all that to myself and stayed positive and put this like facade on, you know, I wouldn't have been able to go to law school or, you know, have a law firm now, you know? So I think there's always that balance of, you know, you're not obligated to share, but when you share, it doesn't always have to be positive, because sometimes things aren't positive, and that's okay.
I just want to touch really quickly on what she said, but like seeing, you know, that you're able to improve your overall health by connecting with other people. Like I honestly have, by, you know, following other disabled activists on social media, I've been able to like learn new things about how to manage my illnesses and what questions to ask doctors. I also learned that I could be a lawyer. I actually, like, the only disabled lawyer that I knew was Matt Murdock, and he is a fictional character who is a blind vigilante in his free time, who somehow made it through law school without getting caught for that. But like, I honestly, like, that was something that I'd wanted to do for such a long time, but I was like, I don't see any other like disabled lawyers. They're not included in anything. And I didn't see any like disabled professionals in general. And actually being open about it on social media, I had people like, oh, hey, have you heard of this person's account? Or like, hey, this person's a lawyer, go check them out. And there was, I think it was with Aaron, and the discussion that Ashley did about being a lawyer and being disabled. And I had someone message me that, just complete stranger. They had found me through hashtags on Instagram, and they're like, hey, I know you briefly mentioned once in a post that you were thinking about going to law school. Here's a video of some disabled lawyer talking about it. Maybe that'll, you know, help you. And I was like, huh, interesting. And I watched it and I was like, oh wait, I can't understand this. Hold on, let me find a transcript real quick. And like, because I was open about it online, like, that's how I'm in the field I'm getting into. Like, I would not be going to law school had I not had somebody message me that and be like, hey, here's an example of somebody else being in your position and they succeeded. And I think like being open about it, talking about the good and the bad, is so beneficial for so many disabled people, whether it's to find job opportunities, career opportunities, and just life advice in general. And even like if you happen to find someone in the same state, they can potentially recommend you a doctor in the area. Like, and those are all really valuable things that unfortunately only do come by connecting with other people and being open, and not just being forced into that, like, you know, toxic positivity of, oh, I just got to pretend everything's hunky-dory, I'm gonna go about my life like nothing's wrong. Like, you have to address both of them at the same time, and like addressing the negatives and, you know, acknowledging that they even exist is something that like comes with acceptance, and honestly is better for your mental health and provides more psychological benefit than just being like, oh, gotta think positive.
Yeah, and you know, Ashley had said something before about how she was talking about the negative stuff and found people and people learned from her. And I think like almost, you know, this idea of like, hey, you're dealing with a lot of heavy, weird pain and stuff, and you're trying to pretend like it's not happening, is actually negative. It's not positive. It's actually more positive to be sharing what you're going through, because you get it, you know, you release that this anger and frustration or whatever you're feeling out. And then you find a community of people that are dealing with the same thing. And other people are actually learning, like, okay, well, she's dealing with this, but she does this, this, and this. So, and, like maybe people will be inspired by it, but whatever. It's good to be inspired by something good. So in my opinion. So, let me just read what Marguerite said, because she wrote a bunch of stuff and I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my God, Marguerite. Marguerite's like, Priya, are you paying attention? I am, Marguerite. So Marguerite wrote, like, athletes still need to be careful. And I'm not sure what we were talking about, but it must be a response to something. And then I'll say, now, since getting older, they realize the disability world is different. Yes. And then Marguerite also wrote, some doctors are still in the dark. I'm not sure what dark ages.
Dark ages.
So they're still in the dark ages on mental illness with CP. Yeah, and doctors are in the dark ages about almost every disability, in my opinion. So that's what I have found. Doctors need to come back to the modern world.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And what the athletes have,
Mm-hmm.
some athletes need to be careful about using legal drugs.
Yeah, because athletes get tested and then they won't be able to compete. Correct? Okay. Yeah. All right. I forgot, like, you guys all know I'm a scatterbrain. I'm just floating through life here.
I want to know if you want to go to the park.
I do, because 1984, we had our game in New York, and two disabled athletes got sent home because they were caught using illegal drugs on the Olympic Village.
Wow.
Yeah, that's serious stuff. So, yeah, I mean, when I lived in California, like, I did have a medical marijuana prescription, and literally the bottle said, I was like, this is so wrong. The bottle said, this is good for everything. I was like, they didn't say this is good for, inflammation. And this is it. There's like, this is good for anything you need it to be good for. Essentially is what the label said. And I was like, okay, well, I guess there's no,
I can just think of so many exceptions right now.
I know, but that's why I was just thought it was funny, because I was like, that's why, and I actually think that's why people don't take medical marijuana seriously, because they say that instead of getting a doctor to be like, okay, this is what you have. Let's try this. Let's see if this works. I'll give you this amount of dosage, like they do for other medications. They're like, try this, go take it, wean yourself up. If it's not working, wean it off, and just see if it's working. And so yeah, I think that's something that maybe it'll get there. I mean, it will, but I don't know how long. And so, yeah. So yeah, that's my experience when I lived in California with medical care. This was like about 10, maybe like 10, 11, 12 years ago. So it was before the CBD craze started. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot about a lot of great things. This is so exciting. I feel like we should do another one sometime soon. But like if anyone has anything they want to say to, wrap up this great conversation we had, please do, because I'd like to hear what you have to say. Marguerite, are you screaming? What's happening?
Peace, love, and hope.
Peace, love, and hope. Yes, that's a good one. And same to you, Marguerite. Peace, love, and hope. And anybody else? Vicky, Katrina, Ashley.
Just thank you guys for putting this together.
Oh, yeah, no. And thank you so much for joining. You had such great things everybody had really great things to say. So I really love this conversation, because I do think when people suffer with chronic illness and they get together and talk about it, we get to be like, and this, can you believe this happened and that happened? Because there's very, when people aren't dealing with it, they just are like, that's when they're like, aren't you overreacting? I'm like, no, I'm not overreacting. This is what's happening to me, and it really bothers me. So I just love this, and I hope, in future meetings, I didn't really promote this, and I'd like to do events, and I don't really promote them. I'm like, whoever comes. But I just love this conversation, so I think it was great. And thank you so much all for joining, and we should do it again, like in a month or two, and have another living with chronic pain discussion. And I love all you guys. So thank you so much for coming. And should we sign off? Oh, maybe we should say bye to YouTube. Okay, so let me do that. So bye, YouTube people. Thank you for joining in if you did. And thank you for watching it if you did later.